take your money, take your votes, take your support, and move to a state or a city or a place that respects individual God-given rights and your right to be left alone by violent mobs. If the folks there want to continue to vote for chaos and destruction and the chaos candidate and Joe Biden, then let them do that, but don't be part of it. The radical left hates this country. They hate everything it stands for. Again, I'm not talking about old Democrats. I'm talking about the radical wing of their party that is slowly hijacking the once proud party of John F. Kennedy that has descended into total madness. Did you see this story about the McCloskeys in St. Louis? For those of you who haven't heard this story, pay attention. And as my grandmother used to say, pay attention good. Washington Examiner. Missouri Attorney General slams St. Louis prosecutor McCloskey case for politically motivated decisions. What's going on here? The McCloskeys were that couple you may have seen on television. A violent mob of Black Lives Matter protesters decided to knock down their front gate on private property, barge into their home, and threaten them. The McCloskeys, being in St. Louis, having probably witnessed in Missouri a lot of the rioting there, the burning down of homes, the attacking of innocent civilians, decided to exit their home and defend their property. Mr. and Mrs. McCloskey left the home with firearms. They displayed those firearms and warned those people on private property, threatening them that they were to leave. There were no shots fired, thankfully. And the situation resolved itself when the violent mob of protesters that were threatening them left the property. Now, you would think the McCloskeys would be celebrated for defending their homes and keeping the violence to zero. Their house wasn't burned down. They weren't attacked. And they prevented the mob from hurting them or hurting their family. You would think they would be celebrated and applauded. No. Kim Gardner, the St. Louis County the city attorney there, who is a far left, radical leftist, has decided to be a good idea. And Mr. McCloskey was on Tucker Carlson last night and said that he's hearing he may be indicted for defending his home. Keep in mind, nobody was killed. No shots were fired. Luckily, there was no violence at all because Mr. McCloskey stood up. Kim Gardner is a disgrace to humankind. She's a disgrace to civilized human beings that believe in law and order everywhere. And Kim Gardner is epidemic of a larger problem. It is a problem that we are seeing with the left right now. It is their effort to silence you through intimidation and fascist-type anti-free speech tactics. Before we go to that, I want to play this video. This is the actual Attorney General for all of Missouri. He was on the Shannon Bream show, and he was asked about this case and this dreadful St. Louis prosecutor who was going after the McCloskeys who dared to defend their own lives. Check out these comments.
Well, this is obviously all breaking right now, but under Missouri law, under the Castle Doctrine, an individual has really expansive authority to protect their own lives, their home, and their property. And I think the story here to watch here is the local prosecutor, Kim Gardner. Kim Gardner has an abysmal record in prosecuting violent crime, has recently released and been complicit in the release of dozens and dozens of inmates who've been charged with violent crimes, and has a record of making politically motivated decisions not based on the law. So this is certainly something to watch.
Folks, this is a very, very dangerous development. What's going on here? What's their real plot, the radical far left? It has a couple of parts. I'll go through them quickly. Number one, they need to defund the police because they need to intimidate you. And if they defund the police who are that line, that hard wall between civilization and chaos, good police departments, that's what they do. When you defund the police and you remove that wall, the horde comes to your door and the mob comes to your door and there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to defund the police first. There's a reason they're doing this, ladies and gentlemen. None of this is by chance. Liberals never do anything by chance. There's always an agenda. Get rid of the wall between chaos and civilization, and that wall is the cops. Get rid of them first. Secondly, disarm Americans. They can't let you defend yourself against the chaos. The chaos has to be frightening. And the chaos won't be as frightening to you if you have the ability to defend yourself. They want you disarmed. No Second Amendment, no firearm, no weapon, no ability to defend yourself at all if you were attacked or your property is burned down. They don't want you to be able to defend your family, to defend yourself, or defend your home. They need you intimidated. They need you silent. And the only way to intimidate is to engage in asymmetric intimidation. You can't intimidate someone that's bigger than you or has a weapon to defend himself in a situation where you want to be violent and he or she has the chance to use violence to defend themselves. They don't want that. They want asymmetric violence where they can intimidate you, burn your property, and attack you, and you do nothing in return. So they have to get the police out of the way and make sure you are, in fact, defenseless. If you dare to not be defenseless, however, don't worry. They have a plan for that, including Kim Gardner. If you say, well, I'm going to physically defend myself and fight back, either with a firearm or if you attack me, I will defend myself and my family. They're going to make sure through their radical far left communist prosecutors that they've put in office in these cities that they prosecute you instead and use the legal system and put you in jail. Ladies and gentlemen, a way to intimidate you into being quiet and to sit there in the corner while the guy at the other side of the ring just beats the living snot out of you. They need to destroy and decimate all resistance to the liberal mob. It's the first step to subjugating a population and intimidating them into silence. You can't intimidate people into silence that choose to fight back, as we've learned throughout revolutions, throughout human history. You can't. The liberals understand that, as the famous quote goes, an enemy is not vanquished until he considers himself so. They need you to mentally consider yourself vanquished and understand there's no off-ramp here. I'm going to be attacked. If I defend myself, I'm going to jail. If I purchase a firearm to defend myself, I'm going to jail. If I dare defend myself and fight back, I'm going to jail. They understand that. Why do you think these Antifa terrorists, the fascists in Antifa, why do you think they show up with cameras? They attack you and they attack you and they attack you until you dare get out of your car and fight back. And then they video it and they demand the police prosecute you. Do you think they're stupid? They're fascists. They're terrorists. They're anti-free speech, anti-civil liberties advocates who use fascist tactics to destroy the republic. These tactics have been tested. They know exactly what they're doing. And people like Kim Gardner, using communist tactics, play right along. There'll be more of this, folks. You've been warned. You may say, Dan, what's the solution? Well, on my social media accounts, on Parler and other places last night, I told you the solution. You got to move away from it, folks. Again, I once believed we could fight in these blue states and these blue cities. I'm very sorry to tell you that fight is over. I'm sorry. You can't win that fight. The only solution, if you can, is to take you, your money, your business, and your family and go to a place where you're not fighting a losing battle. I admire you for staying behind and fighting a good fight, and I'll support you if you do. I don't mean to sound defeatist. I just love my audience, and I know you adore your family and friends. And trying to fight back against the massive powers of a prosecutor like Kim Gardner, who is determined to put you in jail, bankrupt you, and serve search warrants on your home for daring to defend your own home against being burned down and your family from being attacked, you can't win that fight. It's asymmetric warfare. You don't have the assets or the time. Take your money, take your votes, take your support, and move to a state or a city or a place that respects individual God-given rights and your right to be left alone by violent mobs. If the folks there want to continue to vote for chaos and destruction and the chaos candidate and Joe Biden, then let them do that, but don't be part of it.
You just heard Dan Bongino.